once in a while I come across a story and I don't end up talking about it in a video because I think it's going to get wider play. It's going to get wider distribution through just the networks and other people in my space on YouTube. This is a story that did not take off, and it should have. And I should do a better job of not letting things like this fall through the cracks, and that is what this is. This is an article from Wired a couple weeks ago, the headline of which should disturb you. It should be a problem for everyone leading into the 2024 election. It's kind of a replay of 2016. It's a replay of 2020, and there is danger in front of us if we don't face it down. Here's the headline: extremist militias are coordinating in more than 100 Facebook groups. After lying low for years in the aftermath of January 6th, exclusive reporting shows militia extremist groups and profiles have been quietly reorganizing and ramping up recruitment and rhetoric on Facebook. Donald Trump has promised as much. This is a warning I've talked about time and time again, that the calls for violence, the coded calls for violence, are ramping up. Donald Trump using his dog whistles, oftentimes not even dog whistles, he's just using a megaphone to talk about, to challenge his viewers, his fan base, his cult members, to get ready, to be prepared, to put into action another event like January 6th, where their failed coup attempt might be successful a second time. Join your local militia or 3%er patriot group, a post urged the more than 650 members of a Facebook group called the Free American Army, accompanied by the logo for the 3%ers militia network and an image of a man in tactical gear holding a long rifle. The post continues, now more than ever, support the American militia page. Now, many of you know I grew up in northern Idaho in a family that lionized these figures, was sufficiently sympathetic to the causes and the ideologies of militia groups. Montana, Idaho, Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington, all of these states, Wyoming to a degree, has a certain population of individual, typically white men, disaffected for whatever reason, justified or not, to believe that they are martyrs, to believe that they are being oppressed by their government. And the only way to water the tree of liberty is with the blood of patriots from time to time. These are quotes I grew up with, people talking about it all the time. And they are organizing online. And if we do not wake up to the dangers that face us, they will win because they have a large, wide network of individuals duty-bound to make sure that they do. Other content and messaging in the group is similar. And despite the fact that Facebook bans paramilitary organizing and deemed the 3%ers an armed militia group on its 2021 Dangerous Individuals and Organizations list, the post and group remained up until Wired contacted Meta for comment about its existence. Free American Army is just one of around 200 similar Facebook groups and profiles, most of which are still live, that anti-government and far-right extremists are using to coordinate local militia activity around the country. They are using these tools to ensure that not only their message survives, but they build on the momentum that they created during January 6th. They've learned from the mistakes, at least some mistakes, and they will move forward doing this again, having learned from the mistakes they made the first time. After lying low for several years in the aftermath of the U.S. Capitol riot on January 6th, it wasn't the U.S. Capitol riot, Wired magazine, it was an attempted overthrow of the United States government. It was an insurrection, to be sure. After lying low for several years in the aftermath of the insurrection on January 6th, militia extremists have been quietly reorganizing, ramping up recruitment and rhetoric on Facebook, with apparently little concern that Meta will enforce its ban against them. According to new research by the Tech Transparency Project, shared exclusively with Wired, Individuals across the U.S. with long-standing ties to militia groups are creating networks of Facebook pages, urging others to recruit active patriots, quote unquote, and attend meetups, and openly associating themselves with known militia-related sub-ideologies like that of the anti-government 3%er movement, which is a violent organization akin to the Proud Boys. They're also advertising combat training and telling their followers to be prepared, quote unquote, for whatever lies ahead. These are coded terms. These have meaning in this world. These groups are trying to facilitate local organizing, state by state and county by county. Their goals are vague, but many of their posts convey a general sense of urgency about the need to prepare for quote-unquote war, or to quote-unquote stand up against many supposed enemies, including drag queens, immigrants, pro-Palestine college students, communists, and the U.S. government. And here's where the division comes in. It's they want to be against the United States government while promoting the candidacy of Donald Trump. So if they're an anti-government group, yet Donald Trump wants to be in government, wouldn't it logically follow that he is the anti-government candidate? Why would they love him so much? If Donald Trump isn't a racist, why do racists love him so much? These groups are also rebuilding at the moment when an anti-government rhetoric has continued to surge in mainstream political discourse ahead of a contentious, high-stakes presidential election. And by doing so, all this on Facebook, they're hoping to reach a broader pool of prospective recruits than they would on comparatively fringe platforms like Telegram. Quote, many of these groups are no longer fractured set of localized militia, but coalitions formed between multiple militia groups, many with 3%ers at the helm, said Katie Paul, director of Tech Transparency Project. Facebook remains the largest gathering place for extremists and militia movements to cast a wide net and funnel users to more private chats, including on the platform where they can plan and coordinate with impunity. That is the goal. Not just to organize and have some pal-arounds and some meetups and have some beers with some buddies. These people want to affect their worldview through government, through infiltration, through violence, if indeed that's what it takes. Final paragraph here. Paul told Wired that she's been monitoring hundreds of militia-related groups and profiles since 2021 and has observed them growing increasingly emboldened with more serious and coordinated organizing in the past year. Wake up. I hope that the FBI is listening. I hope that the law enforcement officials across the country are paying attention to nip this in the bud before we find ourselves in another January 6, 2021, where we were left holding the bag. We had no idea that it was some of us did, not to the extent of what happened, but many of us warned about the incoming potential for violence. And here we are again. And Donald Trump is amping up his rhetoric, bloodbath talk, blood of the nation, poisoning this, talking about people being scum and vermin and all of the Nazi-esque tropes that he drags out on a daily basis and at rallies all across the country. They're listening. They know the code words. You might not know the code words. They definitely do. Anyway, what do you think? I would love to know. Let's have a conversation in the comments below. You can also leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me as always, daily@dollemore.com. And if you are in a financial position to help this show, to help me produce these videos, you can help me make the videos on this channel. Click the join button below for $2 a month. Become a channel member. You can also go over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. $2 a month goes a long way to help support this work. Follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore. I'm accepting tips there. I don't mean tips money. I mean tips as far as anything you may know about these maniacs. Dangerous world, dangerous times. It's time to vote. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.